Hello everybody, this is quixQuery here, and today we are back to play some more Hermit Pack. And we are going to do a tutorial-ish video today. Not really a tutorial, but more to talk about all of the different types of ores that this mod pack has to offer. And we are going to go over the options for processing each one and how you can get the most out of each individual ore. And so whether it's fortune or whether it's sending it through your absolutely massive Mekanism processing plant, we're going to cover it for each and every individual ore. And if you want to skip to a certain section because you're wondering what the best ways are to process an individual ore, then you can check in the description below, and I will have a list of each individual ore from the pack, along with all of the best ways to process them. The first ore we are going to be talking about is basically coal ore. It's vanilla coal ore. It spawns in the overworld in the regular spots, and the best ways to process it are via Extra Utilities 2 and Ender IO. Extra Utilities 2 offers 4 coal per ore that you put in its crusher, and Ender IO offers a very, very small chance at diamond as an alternative output, as well as 3 coal and a coal powder as a possibility as well. Some other not quite as fantastic ways of processing coal ore include the Actual Additions Crusher, giving you just 3 coal ore, and the Enrichment Chamber from Mekanism, giving you only 2. The next ore we are going to be talking about is iron ore from vanilla. The best way to process it is in a tier 4 Mekanism processing plant, and that is very complicated, and so I will have a link in the description to something that explains that a little better and in more detail than I will be doing in this video. But essentially you put the iron ore into here, and it gets turned into a liquid, which you then process all the way down into some dust, which you then smelt into ingots. And that will yield 5 ingots per ore, which is very powerful. Now, that is also very expensive. It requires a lot of RF and other things like that, and so the next best way, other than a Mekanism setup, and by the way, a Mekanism tier 3 setup will yield 4 ingots per iron ore, so that's even better still. But the next best way is through a Tinker's Construct smeltery, which will yield 3 ingots per ore. Gold ore is pretty much the same as it was in vanilla, and the best way to process it is through a tier 4 Mekanism setup, which will yield 5 ingots per ore. The next best way, other than by a Mekanism setup, which I will have a link to an explanation of that in the description, is through a Tinker's Construct smeltery, which will yield 3 ingots per ore. Ore is Lapis ore, which is a vanilla ore. It provides you with lapis lazuli, which is used as blue dye, as well as a lot of other things in different mods. The best way to process it is through the Actual Additions Crusher, which yields 12 lapis per ore, and the Enrichment Chamber, which yields 12 lapis per ore as well. Diamond ore is a vanilla ore, and the best way to process it is via Tech Reborn's Industrial Grinder. However, if getting into a whole separate power system is not your thing, and you don't like to work with all of the complicated EU and stuff like that, then the best way to process it is just to put the diamond ore in an enrichment chamber, which gives you 2 diamonds per. Redstone is a vanilla ore, and the best way to process it is by putting it in an enrichment chamber, which will give you 12 redstone. However, it is worth noting that the Ender IO sag mill has a chance of giving you silicone in addition to the 8 or 9 redstone dust that it will give you anyway. Emerald ore is a vanilla ore, and the best way to process it is by putting it in a Tinker's Construct smeltery, which will yield 3 emeralds worth. Nether quartz is a vanilla ore, and the best way to process it is by putting it in an enrichment chamber, which yields 6 nether quartz per ore. black quartz is from the Actually Additions mod, and the best way of processing it is by putting it in the Actually Additions crusher, which will yield 2 crushed black quartz, which, by the way, can be smelted into regular black quartz. These are all of the ores from the mod Cyclic, and they are kind of odd ones out because if we look in here, the only thing that we can really do to most of these is a very, very rudimentary processing, and so the best way to get the most out of these ores is to use a Fortune 3 pickaxe. This is resonating ore from the Deep Resonance mod, and there are multiple different things you can do with this. One of them is by smelting it in a furnace, you can get 8 resonating plates. There is no way to get more resonating plates as far as I am aware. And the other way is by using a smelter from the Deep Resonance mod with lava below it in a tank in order to get the liquid resonant crystal. This is Yellorite ore from the Extreme Reactors mod, and the best way to process it is in an Ender IO sag mill, which will give you 2 Yellorite dust, which can be smelted into a Yellorium ingot, and it has a 5% chance of giving you a cyanite dust as well. Now, if you don't care about the cyanite dust, then you can just stick that in an enrichment chamber, which will then give you 2 Yellorium dust. This is Anglesite ore from the Extreme Reactors mod, and the best way of mining this is just with a pickaxe. Silk Touch will give you the ore, and Fortune does not affect how many crystals you will get from it. This is Benitoite ore from the Extreme Reactors mod, and it is the same as the Anglesite in that Fortune does not affect it, and the best way to mine it is with a regular pickaxe. This is Apatite ore from the Forestry mod, and the best way to process it is in an Ender IO sag mill, which will yield 12 Apatite with a 10% chance of giving you sulfur dust. This is copper ore. Copper ore is found in many different mods, and all can be processed in the Mekanism ore processing plant, Tier 4 or Tier 3. Tier 4 will yield 5 ingots of copper per ore. Tier 3 will yield 4 ingots of copper per ore. And if you don't want to set up all of the Mekanism stuff, then you can use a Tinker's Construct smeltery, which will yield 3 ingots. This is tin ore. It is found in several different mods, and all of them can be processed in your Tier 4 ore processing mechanism plant. But if you don't want to get into Mekanism, then you can always put it in your Tinker's Construct smeltery for 3 ingots per ore. This is lead ore from the Industrial Craft 2 and Tech Reborn mods, and it can be put into your Mekanism Tier 4 setup to yield 5 lead ingots. However, if you want some silver from this, then you can put it into your Ender IO sag mill for a chance at silver. This is uranium ore from the Industrial Craft 2 mod, and it can be placed in your macerator right here for 2 crushed uranium ore, which can be processed for up to 5 uranium, as well as a few nuggets. However, if you aren't into the whole Industrial Craft 2 Tech Reborn EU power system, then you can always use the crusher from Actually Additions to crush it into Yellorite dust. This is osmium ore from the Mekanism mod, and the best way to process it is for 5 osmium ingots in the Tier 4 Mekanism ore processing plant. However, if you don't have that set up, the next best way would be in an Ender IO sag mill. This is Ender Biotite ore from the Quark mod, and the best way to process it is with a Fortune 3 pickaxe. This is Dimensional Shard ore from the RF Tools mod. It yields dimensional shards, and the best way to process it is by using a Fortune 3 pickaxe. This is Galena ore from the Tech Reborn mod, and the best way of processing it is by putting it in an industrial grinder, and then by putting the resulting Galena dust into the industrial blast furnace, and Galena ore will then yield you silver and lead. This is Iridium ore from the Tech Reborn mod, and using this, you can, in the industrial grinder, you can generate platinum. This is Ruby ore from the Tech Reborn mod, and the best way of processing it is by putting it in an industrial grinder, which also from the Tech Reborn mod, which will have a chance of yielding chrome. This is Saphire ore from the Tech Reborn mod, and the best way of processing it is by putting it in a Tech Reborn's industrial grinder, and it will also yield aluminum as well as sapphires. This is Bauxite ore from the Tech Reborn mod, and the best way to process it is in a Tech Reborn industrial grinder. This is Pyrite ore, not to be confused with the Cyclic Nether gold ore, and it yields sulfur and iron, and the best way of processing it is by putting it in an industrial grinder. This is Cinnabar ore from Tech Reborn, and the best way of processing it is in a Tech Reborn industrial grinder. It yields sulfur and mercury. This is Sphalerite ore from Tech Reborn, and the best way of processing it is in an industrial grinder from Tech Reborn. It yields zinc and sulfur. This is Tungsten ore from the Tech Reborn mod, and the best way of processing it is in an industrial grinder, and it yields 2 tungsten ingots by doing so. This is Sheldonite ore from the Tech Reborn mod, and the best way of processing it is in an industrial grinder. Sheldonite is a source of platinum, however, in the industrial grinder it also yields iridium and nickel. This is Peridot ore, which is best processed in the industrial grinder. It will yield 1 peridot and 6 peridot dust. However, it will also yield 2 small piles of pyrope, which can then be used as pyrope dust in an industrial electrolyzer to give you aluminum, magnesium, and silicone. This is Sodalite ore. From the Tech Reborn mod. The best way of processing it is in the Tech Reborn industrial grinder, which will yield 12 sodalite dust. This is silver ore from Tech Reborn, but the best way of processing it is in your Mekanism Tier 4 ore processing plant, and you will then get 5 silver ingots out of it that way. However, if you also want some lead, then you might consider processing it in your Ender.io sag mill. This is Ardite ore from the Tinker's Construct mod. It is used as a tool material and as part of alloying manulium, and the only way of processing it is by putting it in a Tinker's Construct smeltery. And last but not least, this is Cobalt from the Tinker's Construct mod. It is used as a material in making tools in the Tinker's Construct mod, and it is also used as half of the alloying for manulium. I hope you guys enjoyed this and found this useful. If you did, please be sure to leave a like, and I will see you in another video. Thank you for watching.